Firefighters are battling out-of-control wildfires across the Los Angeles area. The wind-whipped flames are destroying homes and forcing residents to flee. At least 5 people are confirmed dead, and more than 1,000 buildings have been destroyed now.
Fires rage in the hills across Los Angeles as a helicopter carrying water flies above the flames in a futile attempt to dampen the inferno. Fires are now burning in at least 5 different areas across the city and beyond, the latest in the heart of Hollywood. In the Palisades, a coastal region close to the Malibu neighborhood, over 1,000 structures have been destroyed and the number is expected to rise. This was the first area to be ravaged by fire after the blaze broke out on Tuesday. Almost everything in this shopping outlet has been destroyed. This man returned to his home in the Palisades neighborhood on Wednesday. All that was left was rubble and burnt-out cars.
Everybody's lost, not just this community. The community next door, I'm sure all the people up there have lost everything. It's just pretty devastating. This is pretty devastating.
US President Joe Biden and the Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, have visited Los Angeles. Mayor Karen Bass said while both offered help, the winds are proving to be overwhelming.
I spoke with President Biden today and Governor Newsom earlier today, and they assured me of full federal and state support. As we head into tonight, we are still facing strong and erratic winds.
The conditions, which are partly responsible for the spread of the blaze, improved on Wednesday night, but are expected to worsen again.
Lindon Pronto is a senior fire management expert at the European Forest Institute. He's joining me now from Aschau in Germany. Welcome to DW. Thank you for your time today. You began your career, I believe, as a wildland firefighter in California 20 years ago. Given your experience, could you put into perspective for us what Los Angeles firefighters are dealing with right now?
Yes, it's, of course, very harrowing conditions. The high winds from the Santa Ana were then compounded by another wind and topographic feature. So this wind and hot air was compressed and sped up even further than a normal Santa Ana would be, which was ahead of the fire, which caused a lot of trees and power line issues even before the blazes got well established. So this created access issues for firefighters. These are very steep slopes in the surrounding area, which are held together by, brush and root systems. When those burn away, boulders come rolling down, with roads also being blocked off by power lines, by people who had abandoned their cars. There is just a lot of chaos in the first hours of an incident like this, which, I can only imagine is very difficult to even get a bearing in the first. Priority is, of course, life and property. It's not even containing the blaze, and there's still people trapped in their homes. They're still trying to make access to some of these areas.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a logistical nightmare. But again, I mean, we see these pictures, but I'm sure we don't know what it is like for these firefighters. Describe to us what it feels like when you're fighting a fire, when you're actually standing in front of these flames. Well, that's when your training kicks in. You have your go mode. You start, thinking differently, more clearly, if you will. You're trained to, act in a scenario like this. And yeah, I mean, these are folks that are working long hours, doing everything they can to protect their communities. And, they're doing their best. And of course, looking out for people, helping people who, sometimes people just come wandering out of the smoke. Also listening to scanner traffic. I mean, there's new houses catching fire even now, even today. There's new reports of people needing to be, transported to a safe area. And so, yeah, your training kicks in and you just do what you have to do. There's no two ways about it. Are there enough firefighters?
No, I mean, they're really stretched thin. One of the really challenging aspects here is there's a simultaneity of events. There's multiple very high priority fires going on. there's not enough firefighters to even address every single, house that's on fire. Obviously, you have to triage. You have to say, there's nothing we can do standing here pouring water, even if we have it. Some of the areas, the hydrant pressure has completely dropped, so they're needing to truck water into some of the areas. So, you really have to prioritize about, where one puts one's resources. In the summer months, you have an additional 10,000 approximately federal wildland firefighters, many of them also stationed in Southern California, that would have been there within minutes or hours of an event like this happening. And these resources aren't available right now. Only the permanent staff are. Even aircraft contracts, of course, with the high winds you can't fly so much aircraft, but even in calmer conditions, the standby contracts only run a certain part of the year. So the timing of this is also strained resources even further.
What do local authorities need to be doing now to help people cope with this situation? And are they actually doing the right things?
Of course, I mean, it's not for me to pass any criticism here. I think there will be a lot of questions asked after the fact. Questions of why wasn't the power shut down in some places where the winds were forecasted. What compounded this was this mountain wave wind event, which not only caused so the Santa Ana winds are supercharged, superheated air that comes out of the Great Basin from a high pressure system and kind of washes down towards the sea. And then you had this wave effect, which creates this near surface turbulence factor, which means that the winds don't necessarily behave as one might expect in a Santa Ana wind event. And it compounded it, so it went even faster. So, I mean, this was just really the worst case scenario, and then also multiple fires on top of that. So, I mean, I'm sure every authority, every firefighter out there is doing absolutely their damnedest to try and prioritize and triage and see how they can make progress here and also catch any new starts. I mean, this isn't the end. There's Santa Ana is still expected through next Wednesday even. So this is we're in the middle of it right now. It's not over like some of the like a few years ago in Colorado when nearly 1,000 homes burned down. The snow put the fire out the next day, and that was kind of the end of it. We're in for the long haul on this one.
And just talk to us briefly about the kind of homes that are being destroyed. I mean, many of them are quite old, aren't they? And their location.
Yeah, so these communities are nestled up against, vegetated areas and narrow, steep canyons. And here it really comes down to ownership. So a lot of the surrounding area is owned by one authority. So, even if a private property owner wanted to do something to create a bigger buffer zone, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they could. That said, there's also a lot of very affluent properties affected. And if you can afford $20 million or $6 million home or whatever, then I'm sure, there's going to be questions asked. So why aren't these homes better prepared? Why aren't these homes better fireproofed? And then you have a lot of these more historical homes. One thing most of these houses have in common is that they're all wood construction. Even within this, if you go down the streets, these homes are even connected to each other by wooden fences. There's, eucalyptus trees interspersed. There's palm trees. There's a lot of landscaping that is still flammable. And of course, you have a lot of, more conscious people to the issue, because this is, a yearly issue in this part of the state. You have more people that are becoming more conscious about what they plant in terms of landscaping in their yard. But one has to say, I mean, this is an urban conflagration. And so even after the main fire front passed and the home didn't initially catch fire, smoldering, debris or something that may have gotten established and quickly dealt with had they had enough resources to go around would have been picked up. And so you have homes, starting to catch fire and going up every few minutes. There's a new structure fire that's reported even now because they just don't have enough resources to tackle this as one would if it, which were an incident on a much smaller scale.
Lindon, have wildfires gotten harder to contain in the last 20 years? Are you seeing a change?
Yeah, so when I first started out, I mean, if you ended up in a situation like this, that was kind of a once in a career type of fire, as we used to call it. And these these folks are, facing this on a, when I say folks, I mean firefighters, and firefighters are now facing these types of scenarios, these urban conflagrations, these really extreme fires, extreme fire behavior. This is an annual event now, and also a year-round event, clearly. And so, yeah, I mean, the compounding effects of a drying climate. This area hasn't had much precipitation since last May. With the drying of the Santa Ana winds, it remains to be told, to be, deciphered whether and how much, climate change had a direct impact on all of these factors, finding a confluence in a way that led to this devastating situation. There'll be a lot of analysis afterward. But one thing is clear is that, the drying, the overall lengthening of the fire season, it's nearly doubled since the 80s. This fuel is available to burn much for many more days out of the year, and does so frequently as a lot of these fires are human caused.
Lindon Pronto, fire management expert, thank you so much for joining us today and for your analysis.
Thank you.